इस्लामाबाद आपके लिए चलेंगे स्पीकर कौमी असम्बली असद कैसर इस वक्त बरतानिया के 5 चुने पार्लिमानी वफ्द के हमरा प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस कर रहे हैं।
At the moment in a blanket of darkness. We don't know what is happening there. We're concerned about the human rights. We're concerned of the safety of women, children, and people generally. I think it's important to do that. We're concerned about what is happening under this blanket of darkness that India has cast upon them when their own opposition leader is not entitled to go into Kashmir to see what is going on. Journalists are only sent in a selective basis on the way that they'll report, and the whole blackout brings me to a huge amount of fear of the rights and the abuses that will take place, and unfortunately I think leading to a perhaps genocide of what's going on. So we are certainly in support of looking to see about the human rights issues, what can be done through the British government. First of all, we are pushing as much as we can on the Prime Minister to make a statement about what's going on, make representation to the United Nations human rights as well as working with the European Parliament to move this issue forward. So I just want to thank the Honourable Speaker again for a timely invite, because this issue is at the start of this, and what we want to do is ensure that we get the maximum attention of the world, because if we can't do that for those people, then I think the end is there for those people. We don't want to see that. We want to see Kashmiris to move forward, to have normal lives and to move forward, and that is important for us to work on the human rights issues, and we'll hopefully do so. Stephen?
Stephen.
Well, I'm Stephen Timms. I'm the Member of Parliament for East Ham in the East End, and I'd also like to extend my thanks for the invitation that's been given to us today. Many of my constituents in East London have their roots in Kashmir, and so people have been expressing their concerns to me for the whole of my 25 years in Parliament about what's happening in Kashmir, but of course those concerns are heightened at the moment. And I think from my perspective there are really two kinds of concerns. One is a pragmatic set of concerns, and another is a principled set of concerns. And the pragmatic set of concerns is the issues that Khalid has just been referring to. The fact that some in my constituency are not able at the moment to speak to their families. They don't know what's happening to them. There isn't news coming out, the regular connections that they've come to rely on and to expect. A lack of information about what's really going on, and some worrying reports and rumours about what's happening inside, and those are all of great concern to many people in my constituency, and therefore to me as well. But there is also the principled issue, and that is that if the status of Kashmir is to change, that requires the consent of the people of Kashmir. And given the history of United Nations resolutions, the 70-year history that Khalid has referred to, that principle is a very important one, and it needs to be honoured. And at the moment there is absolutely no sign that it is going to be, and that must be and is deeply of concern to the international community, and it's a very important concern for peace as well. And that's a key part of the background to our visit today, and the concern I think there will be very widely in the British Parliament about where this could lead in the future.
Thank you. Imran says.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Can I also thank the Speaker for his very timely invite for us to visit in respect of the ongoing concerns and issues around Kashmir. And I think we are moving towards a very grave situation that should quite rightly concern the international community. The Indian government's unilateral action to revoke Article 370 and Article 35A is questionable under the Constitution of India, is also in direct contravention of United Nations resolutions, and actually in breach of international obligations, in particular Article 49 of the 4th Geneva Convention. And whilst I welcome the Security Council's recent closed-door meeting on the issue, it is the first time the issue of Kashmir has been on the agenda for many decades now, since the 1970s. I do still add a note of regret that we did not see a unanimous statement agreed by all the members of the Security Council in direct condemnation of this situation. And I think the Security Council and the United Nations needs to go further and call a spade and call injustice injustice. The tragedy continues with the blockade in occupied Kashmir, a blockade that's been described by UN rapporteurs in this area as perhaps one of the worst blockades that they've seen. A blockade that means we don't actually know what's happening on the ground in occupied Kashmir. What we do know, there are reports and briefings that we've already had around around 4,000 individuals have been arrested under the Public Safety Act, which in itself is a draconian legislation. The accuracy of those figures I do not know, but those are the figures that have been reported in the mainstream. Also, there has been reports of the shortage of medical supplies and various other human rights abuses and violations. We also know that the number of troops on the line of control has been increased quite significantly, and the international community must now really see this as a flashpoint, because the aim here is to completely abolish the Kashmiri cause, which cannot happen. And the human rights violations, firstly, the international community must be more forthright in its condemnation of these serious and grave human rights abuses in that region. But secondly, there must be real pressure put upon the Indian government to reverse this decision, because let's be absolutely clear, what we do not want is this to now become the new point where the conversation on Kashmir is to begin. And again, we are very grateful. We have over a number of days meetings, and we're grateful to the Speaker for arranging meetings with a number of senior government officials, and we also intend to visit the line of control for ourselves to observe the situation. And of course, we will stand against injustice wherever that happens in the world, and the world's focus needs to be on Kashmir at the moment, because the sons and daughters of Kashmir are suffering, and there are reports that there is a real chance of genocide in that region. The world must act now before it is too late.
As the parliamentary chairperson of the Committee of the Parliament of Pakistan, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to the honourable members of the House of Commons from the United Kingdom. Our Honourable Speaker, Asad Qaiser Saab, has just given you an outlook of where the people and government of Pakistan stand. Kashmir is one issue where the people of Pakistan are totally united as far as this very grave issue is concerned. Over the last 72 years, after the partition took place under the then British Indian government, we've always said, and our leader Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah said, that Kashmir is the jugular vein of Pakistan, Sharag. And it is. And in fact, the partition plan of Pakistan is incomplete without the Kashmir issue getting resolved. The 48-49 UN resolutions earmarked two underpinnings. One, that Kashmir is a disputed territory. Second, that the future of Kashmir has to be determined by the people of Kashmir. And this is what has been reaffirmed, that it's an international issue of long standing which has not been resolved. And this is why recently, when on the 13th of August, the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Shah Mahmood Qureshi, had written to the Security Council, a meeting within 72 hours was convened, as one of our visiting members of Parliament from the United Kingdom just mentioned, that it was a period of 54 years that the Kashmir issue has been taken up at the United Nations Security Council. This was a recognition of this long-standing dispute, and as has been mentioned, the neighbors are now, India and Pakistan, nuclear powers. A flashpoint which nobody in the world wants is there, and this is why it has become of the greatest essence that, as has rightly been said by our visiting colleagues from the United Kingdom, the Parliamentarians, that the world must take notice, most of all, the permanent 5 members, China, the United States, Russia, United Kingdom and France, must immediately call for lifting of the curfew, which is amongst the most inhuman acts. We've had 2 very significant UN Commission reports by the Human Rights Council pinpointing June 2018, July 2019, followed up by a report of the House of Commons of the United Kingdom itself, the Kashmir Committee report, a report of the European Union Parliament, which also had a report similarly on Kashmir, and the Amnesty International, followed by an extremely extensive report on torture, how in the last 10 years torture has been used as an instrument of trying to subvert the will of the Kashmiris. And those documented reports were picked up by the New York Times. And I think today, the world media, Washington Post in the United States, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, CNN, in Britain, The Guardian, The Independent, The Times of London, The Daily Telegraph, The Daily Mail, Le Monde, Le Figaro, and other newspapers worldwide have covered this flashpoint, because I think the world is sensitized to this issue, and there cannot be a graver methodology that the Indians have adopted. No communication for 21 days between the people and the ratio. Nearly 900,000 troops of the Indian government stationed, terrorizing, tyrannical in the methodology that they are using of abduction, rape, picking people up in the thousands into the jails of India. There could not be a worse example after the fascist, neo-fascist, what happened and which led to World War II. We are seeing something on this dimension, on this scale, and the intensity that is of oppression is unprecedented. We as Pakistanis, elected representatives of the Parliament of Pakistan, are wanting now immediate action on part of the great powers, because we need now to make the people feel that democracy and secularism, under which Gandhi and Nehru came the leaders of India, is now being totally negated by this philosophy of Hindutva, which is narrow-minded, biased, prejudiced, anti-democracy, anti-human values in the kind of context that they are leading this kind of thing. I feel the time has come, the moment has come for the Kashmiris to get the right to vote and for their voices to be globally flashed around. This gathering of parliamentarians from the United Kingdom and Pakistan is the start of the great parliamentary effort that our Speaker, he wrote to all the speakers of the assemblies of the world, over 190, And this is the moment I think we need to further go around and either invite them over or we go there so they are sensitized to the kind of sufferings, that the torture that they are undergoing. Thank you.